Hello my lovely friends, my name is Rue. How do you do? Welcome back to my channel. We're doing an autism chat. Today is October 15th, which is the 2nd year anniversary of my autism diagnosis. So I felt like I should do something special for it. And fun fact, I've already filmed this video once and I realized part of it didn't record. So this is the second time I'm making this video. But maybe it'll be better this time. We're keeping a positive attitude, okay? Okay. So, what am I talking about today? I wanted to try to tell my story. I've wanted to make this video for a long time. It's just very overwhelming because it feels very big and I know I'm not gonna be able to cover everything, and I'm not very good at simplifying. But I'm going to do my best to give you some bullet points on the how I found out I was autistic story. So that's what we're doing today. You know, bear with me. I literally was just editing the other video I filmed and I was like, no, it wasn't recording. No. Anyways, it's fine. I'm being very chill about it, okay? We're just gonna do it again. Anyways, so. I was not diagnosed as a child, as you know. And I was a very quiet child. Very, very quiet. I was good at school. I was in the gifted program. Why was that a thing, you guys? That's weird, right? But so I wasn't a troublemaker. I was very quiet. You know, teachers liked me and I was good at school, so why would they diagnose me with anything? You know, I wasn't causing them any issues. So I feel like I got through my childhood pretty unscathed. I hated school, but I had an outlet. My mom and my grandparents paid for me to ride horses, which was my big obsession, special interest. So every moment I was at school, I was thinking about horses, and then I would go be with horses. So I would say it's a fairly good way for a neurodivergent child to come up. So yeah, I've heard horror stories from other autistic people about how traumatic their childhoods were, and I would say I did not have that experience, thankfully. And also I feel like my family is a little weird too, so I was just kind of able to be my weird little self, and it was fine. And I didn't start to struggle until I became an adult. And I got through my 20s because I did a very good job at accommodating for myself, even though I didn't know I was accommodating for myself. I didn't have a full-time job until I was 27. Is that correct? I don't know. And I worked a lot of part-time jobs, and there were jobs that were around my interests, working on horse farms, and they were very non-social, and I could pick my schedule. And so I also went to school for the things that I enjoyed learning about. And I also took a very non-traditional school path. I didn't go directly to college, and I eventually got a 2-year degree at a community college near my house. I'm sorry about these birds. Just ignore them. Okay. They're apparently just gonna scream, so I apologize. So yeah, and then every time I talk they scream. I went back for my bachelor's at 26, I think. So not like the traditional college path. And I never lived in a dorm. Oh my god, I would have died. And I lived with my parents basically up until I was 27. I don't really know. Like I had a few little things where I went off and did a thing, but it usually only lasted a little while. So, and I usually imploded. So, if you can live with your parents, I would highly suggest it. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's honestly why I was able to keep my stuff together for so long, you know? And I like obviously struggled with things in my 20s, and I feel like I was very like up and down. Like I'd have really good times and then I'd go like way down and be very bad. And I know a lot of times I didn't handle things well because I didn't understand how my brain worked, and I had to like, I feel like I figured stuff out the hard way instead of like being educated on how my brain works and being given tools. I like had to stumble my way through it and figure it out myself. Which like I'm so glad for like younger autistics who are getting these tools much earlier than I did, because I see them and they're using tools that I learned how to implement as like a 30-year-old, and they're in their like early 20s, and I'm like, good for you. It's so helpful to know that stuff. Anyways, so I guess I want to get more into the actual circumstances that led to me finding out I was autistic. So I graduated college I was 27. What was that? I don't know. So I graduated college and I got my first like real job, full-time job as a specimen processor at a hospital. Very glamorous. But I was like, I had this plan, like I was going to work there and then I was going to transfer, and I wanted to be a histotechnician. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like the people who make the slides with the tissues and stuff. But anyways, that didn't work out, obviously. So anyways, I was really, really good at this job actually, because it was like data entry, very repetitive. I could like wear my headphones all day and listen to stuff like podcasts. And I really, like when I was working, I didn't really have to talk to anyone. So it was good for that. It was also 10-hour shifts, which went by really fast. And so I got 3 days off a week, which was very nice as well. But I only lasted there 6 months. And I basically imploded. So I just really struggled to connect to these people. I mean, I struggled to connect with everyone. And I did my best to like be nice to everyone and whatever. Make like small talk, whatever. But I was like clearly very bad. Like they would all get along and talk, and I'd just be like, how are you doing this? I suck. But there was like one person in particular, and she would always, I don't even know how to explain it, but like whenever she would say anything to me or just say hello, she said it with a tone that was very like, I'm making fun of you, and I could never figure out why, like what I did to have her treat me this way, but she always did, and I just kind of ignored it, and I was like, well, maybe, I don't know, and I also like to like assume people mean well, so I was just like, I'm just gonna pretend like that's not happening, and just, I don't know. Anyways, I have no idea what I did to this person to warrant this type of treatment, but, I don't know. But I just sort of ignored it, until this one night when I was talking to one of her friends who was like sitting beside me. We were just having like a normal conversation, like very nice. And this person who, always spoke to me in that way comes up behind us, and she like says to her friend, like, why are you talking to me? like, she doesn't talk to anyone, like, well, blah, 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 and, like, really loudly saying this in a very small room with other people. And I was, like, just so caught off guard and so mortified, and she, like, kept saying these things, like, really loudly, and I, like, honestly, I feel like I kind of blacked out because I don't really remember much after that, but I just remember staring at my computer screen and just being frozen and, like, feeling like I should say something, but I couldn't say anything, and I think I just stared there until, like, she went away. I don't know how the situation diffused, like, what happened. I, like, literally don't remember. But, and like, it didn't really sink in until the next day when I, like, kind of broke down. And I was like, oh my god, I think I was bullied last night. So that was difficult, but, like, I was like, okay, we're just gonna keep going. It's fine. You know, whatever. And so I feel like it was the next week. I was, like, sitting in the room and I heard people talking. I believe they were talking about me. Maybe I'm incorrect, but I couldn't, like, at the time I was like, it can't be anyone else except me. And they were talking poorly about me, and these are people I thought liked me, or, like, you know, I didn't have any issue with. And they were talking about me. I feel like there are maybe, like, 2 instances where this happened that week. I don't know. But that broke me because, like, you know, it was one thing for this girl who was treating me that way anyways, like, that was expected, but then for people who are nice to your face and then you hear them talking about you behind your back, like, that felt really bad. And I just kind of broke. And there were, like, other things about this job that were stressful, so, like, I mean, it would have probably happened anyways. So basically I went home that night. It was like a night shift job, and I was just, like, sobbing in the car, just, like, freaking out, like, spiraling hardcore. And I was like, I can't go back there. What do I do? Like, so I basically came up with a plan of, like, I'm not going back. You know, I have this amount of money for this amount of time and it'll be fine. And that was the night I started Googling autism because there have been so many times in my life where I've had these moments of, like, what's wrong with me? And I'll go to the internet and Google my quote-unquote symptoms. And I had never looked up autism before. And I don't know what led me exactly to look up autism this night, but I did. And that's kind of where it started. And at first I was like, okay, this isn't me. Like, no. And then I kept looking. And the more I looked into it, the more I was like, very interesting. It was like finally something feels correct. Like, this explains everything, sort of thing. Because I'd looked up other things before. Like, I'd looked up, like, bipolar disorder, anxiety, depression, whatever. Nothing quite fit, you know? At least nothing quite explained everything until I started looking up autism. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is it. This is what I've been looking for all these years. Because it's really messed up. Like, my whole life I've been looking for a reason why I was the way I was, but I framed it like something's wrong with me kind of thing, where there's, like, nothing wrong with me. I'm just autistic. And I would always think, well, maybe if I could figure it out, I could be on a medication and I could be normal, which is really depressing if you think about it. Anyways, that's where it started. And then this was happening in 2020. I left this job, like, it was like March 15th. Like, you know what was happening March 15th in the United States, at least. That's when things started getting crazy. And so, you know, I left this job thinking, oh, I'll be able to find another job in, like, a month or two, whatever. No. I couldn't find another job until the end of the year, which was good for me, honestly, because I had a very decent summer, despite like the anxiety about the whole situation, you know. It was a very good healing, like outdoorsy summer. And then I finally got a job in September. And it was a very good job for me on paper. Like, it was, I liked the job and I liked the place I was working for. And like, I think this, I think I could have, if there was a full-time job I could have held, it could have been this one. But unfortunately, I had the worst supervisor I've ever had at this job, and it was like constantly being super stressed. And I'd had anxiety before, but I'd never had anxiety like this. Like, I would have chest pains and just be so panicked, and I would like be driving to work and just crying, and it was a not good time. And so like the job itself was really good for me because it was like working with animals, and like it was using my degree, and it was like it was a lot of being alone, and like I could listen to podcasts, and it was very repetitive, and it was honestly like the perfect full-time job for me, and it had good benefits and like all this stuff. But unfortunately, the supervisor was just horrific, and it was like I was just constantly on edge because I never knew what she was gonna do that day. Like, was she gonna blow up on us for no reason? Like, it was that kind of situation. And I remember at the end of 2020, like the longer I worked at this job, it was like, you know, in October I was like, well, I feel pretty bad right now, but it can't get worse than this. And then November would come, and I was like, okay, it got worse, but it can't get worse than this. And then the next month, it got worse, and I was like, okay, so it can get really bad, and it might continue to get worse. And that was just like me sinking down into this burnout. This is where it started. And so I wanted to stay at this job for 6 months because I wanted to stay where I was working under this company because it had really good benefits and it was a good place to work. And I was like, if I can get through 6 months, I can transfer, find another job to transfer to, and it's gonna be fine. And oh my god, by the end of this 6 months, I was so unwell. Like, it was really bad. And it was February, I believe, when I had this day where I was just like so depressed and crying like all day. And it was this night that I told my fiance that I thought I was autistic because up until this point I just kept it to myself and just sort of researched here and there, and it was like it took me like completely breaking down to be like, I think I'm autistic, and like having the courage to tell him. And so that, yeah, I was really, really not good, but I ended up getting a position at another place working under someone else. And it was like a job that used my degree, and on paper it was really, really good, and benefits are good, the people are good, it's very flexible, it's very inclusive. It was really, really great, and those people were really lovely. And so I was basically like, okay, this is the solution. This is gonna heal me. Like, I can do this job, and I want to stay at this job. So obviously, so the first like month I was there, it was like a huge relief to not be under this supervisor, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling better, it's gonna be all right. But the longer I worked, the more I realized it wasn't gonna be okay. Like, I was still sinking into burnout more and more, and it kind of just hit me like, if I can't be successful at this job where everyone is so kind and understanding, and like I could take time off whenever I want and all this stuff, that I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to be able to have a full-time job anywhere. Like, this is the ideal situation, and I can't even hack it. So I worked at this job for, let me think, 8 months. I was there 8 months. And again, lovely job, lovely people. It was nothing to do with the job. It was me not being able to handle it. So this is the part where it kind of intersects with the other video I made of how I got the autism diagnosis. So I'll link that below if you want to watch that, because I went into more of the details in that video. So I won't get into it a lot in this one. But basically I decided I needed to be diagnosed because I clearly couldn't work without any sort of accommodations. And I knew if I wanted to have a job, this is what I needed to do. And so it was very difficult. I don't even know how I did it, but I knew I had to. And at this job I had insurance that would cover an assessment. So I found a psychologist who would do my assessment. I think my assessment was in October, but I first saw her in September. But so I would flip-flop between I can't do this, I need to quit my job, and no, you need to stick it out, you're gonna be fine, you can do this. But I just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and I was just really, really not well. And so I basically stuck it out until my assessment and until I knew my health insurance would extend to cover it. And then I quit as soon as I could, because it was at the point where every day was just really painful for me. And I feel really bad about how I left, because they didn't deserve that, but I was just at a point where I couldn't leave the right way. I just didn't have it in me to go through it. So I basically quit via email, which, I don't feel great about. But it was what I had to do. And I got my assessment, October 15th. Or my results. And yes, you are autistic. Yeah. And I mean, that's the very, very briefest of synopsis of this whole thing, of how I kind of came to this conclusion and was diagnosed. And I just want to say, I didn't leave my job just out of nowhere. I had planned, and I decided to DoorDash because I just suck at getting help, and I want to be independent. So I DoorDashed for quite a while to hold up my end of the financial bargain. And then my car broke down in June of 2022, and I also broke down because I was like, what am I gonna do? But thankfully I have a lovely partner who has sort of taken over the financial stuff, and I do the home stuff, and it works really well for us. And he's super understanding and wonderful, and I'm turning orange. I couldn't do this without him, honestly. I'm so lucky to have someone who can help me. I don't know where I'd be without him, but it wouldn't be good. So yeah. Anyways, I hope this was I don't know, entertaining or insightful or whatever. I've wanted to make this video for a long time. It's just very overwhelming because I'm not very good at summing up and telling stories. But I hope I did an okay job. Yeah, I want to make a video about my burnout. That's the next thing I want to do. And I think I'm gonna use my journal to get across how I was feeling at the time, because I also have a really bad memory, and so I don't remember as much anymore. But I do want to talk about my burnout, because I feel like autistic burnout is just it's very intense and worth talking about. Because I imagine probably some of you are burned out. So, yeah. And I'm still recovering from my burnout, which is so annoying. It's been 2 years. But I still have trouble feeling things. And I didn't have this problem before. I don't know. Anyways, I'll make a video about it. Because it really messed me up. And I wish I hadn't had to. I wish it didn't take me completely breaking down, horribly breaking down, to get an autism diagnosis. But I feel like that's a common story for late diagnosed autistics. So, there you go. That's my little story. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.